Hello, I'm Mo Rahim. Welcome back to MaryJane Markets. Today is Monday, July 19th. I didn't make an episode on Friday because I had only one item to talk about, but then over the weekend I saw some pretty interesting articles. So today I'll catch you guys up from Friday until now. If you do want to learn about any programming updates, be sure to follow my Twitter at MJMarkets. That's really the only way I have of communicating that stuff with an audience. On the docket for today is an update by Leafly on US sales in the first half of 2021, some updates from Florida, Ohio, and Georgia on their medicinal program. The Surgeon General of the US spoke about federal marijuana legalization, so we'll touch upon that a little bit. A lawsuit filed in Illinois. And there were a few interesting articles about pricing both here in the States and up north in Canada, so we'll touch upon that. And I'll try and cover everything in a concise manner. Before we jump into things, like usual now, let's take a look at some stock prices. The sector down again today. I think that's 4 days in a row. Amid a challenging market. I think the S&P overall was down 1.5%. So some of these names are now are down 10% from Wednesday when the announcement of the CAOA came out. Let's switch over first to some positive news. Leafly today came out with an article publishing first half sales numbers for 2021. Now this is for the United States, and they, along with Whitney Economics, say that for the first 6 months of 2021, Americans spent more than $12 billion on legal cannabis products. Yes, that is $12 billion in legal sales in just the first half of 2021. And that's versus an estimated 17 or 18 billion in all of 2020. Leafly here listing it at 18 billion. I've seen 17.2 elsewhere. Either way, these are strong numbers. If consumers just keep up this pace, that's a 33% growth rate year over year. I just don't know how you can bet against this monster growth. Yes, the CAOA was a bit of a letdown. Yes, it doesn't look like safe banking is going to be pushed through anytime soon, but no matter the federal policy, the trend of states is clear. On a personal note, I can't corroborate these numbers. I know I showed off my bottom-up methodology for estimating the market size in the very first episode, but I haven't had time to compile those numbers state by state. I do apologize for that. I've started working on it, and I'm hoping to be done by this weekend. As investors, it is important to keep an eye on market figures like these, as well as the numbers the companies we're invested in are reporting. So let me know in the comments if you've seen other sales numbers elsewhere or where you think we'll finish off the year at. But no matter if we get slightly differing estimates, the trend is clear. Speaking of state trends, let's talk about a few of those states now. Florida on Friday released their weekly OMMU numbers. That's the Office of Medical Marijuana Use, for those unfamiliar with it. This is an update that comes out weekly with really useful information regarding Florida's medical program. Remember that Florida has been an MMJ only state since 2016, so this comprises the total of their legal market right now. If you are an investor in any companies operating in Florida, this will be of interest. And that's all the big MSOs at this point. And with Florida being the fourth largest market in the country, this is going to be a hotly contested market for a long time. So they list a few metrics of interest here, things like patient count, any dispensaries opening, as well as sales figures. Let me see if I can get this all on one screen. All right, I was able to resize that. So no surprise here, Trulieve again taking this top spot with nearly 50% of flower being sold here. That is down a little from previous months, but that's just the way it goes when you're top dog and other MSOs start coming into the state. If you're following Trulieve closely, which we will be here on this channel, you can see they're not resting on their laurels. They're still fighting for land in their home state and opening up new dispensaries. This sort of market share distribution isn't really common in other states. Florida here, TrueLeaf here took sort of a different tact than other MSOs. They really focused on Florida from the beginning and are just dominating there. And now with a strong foothold in their home state, they've started to expand out to other states. Again, that gets published weekly, and I'll drop the link below if you're interested in checking this out. Moving on to Ohio, today they released their patient numbers. Just a reminder, Ohio is also an MMG-only state since 2016, though they've been slower to move on rulings than Florida. And it's the seventh state. It's the seventh largest market in the nation, which comes as a surprise to me. So today they reported 215,874 registered patients, which is up around 10,000 patients from last month, which has been about their average number of patients added going back as far as I saw. Of those 215,000, 173,000 purchased medicinal products last month. That's roughly 80% of eligible patients. We'll talk a little bit later about why. There's an article I want to bring up that relates to the topic, so we'll touch upon it a little later. But other than that, really no surprise in these numbers. It looks like they're chugging along. There are some rumors about a recreational bill being brought up in Ohio, but I want to stay away from rumors on this show. There's always rumors, and we'll talk about things as they become substantial. One other state update today before we move on. Georgia is holding a Medical Cannabis Commission special meeting this Saturday, July 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll drop the link below if you're interested. Georgia, as a reminder, is a MMJ only state, but they're also a low THC only state. So if you have an interest in CBD companies, you might find this useful. I'm probably not going to talk much about it on this show. The CBD market is just not something I can make a determination on. But this seemed like a significant development about licenses, which from what I read have been long awaited in the state, so I thought I'd pass it along. Okay, moving along. It's been reported late afternoon today that a lawsuit has been filed against the state of Illinois over their changes to the dispensary lotteries. If you watched the show a couple of episodes ago, we covered the long-awaited announcement from Governor Pritzker. I seem to have hit my free limit here on this site, but it basically said the structure to determine who gets those social equity licenses is unfair to out-of-state owners, and that it's different from, or goes against the language of the original bill, so they're claiming that it's unconstitutional here. I'll link this article below. Maybe you'll be able to view it for free. I think I've just hit my limit. With Illinois being the fifth largest market in the nation, operators have been foaming at the mouth for this lottery of the 185 licenses to get underway. The first drawing is scheduled for next Thursday, so I'm not sure how this is going to affect it, if at all. Hopefully in the next day or two, we'll get a response from the state attorney's office. I didn't see a comment from there in here. If you are more familiar about these matters, please share your thoughts in the comments section. Illinois has been a monster recreational market this last year and a half, and I'd hate for this or other lawsuits to slow down more grow-ops and dispensaries that are needed here. Next up, the Surgeon General of the United States had some things to say about cannabis. We'll try and listen to that now. Excuse me if I have any production issues here.
Mr. Surgeon General, while we have you here, I wanted to get you on the record about whether you support the legalization of marijuana and what concerns do you have?
Well, marijuana is an interesting story that's unfolding in our country right now, and we have, had a long history of discussion around the benefits and risks of marijuana. We have experiments that are going on in many states right now where medical marijuana has been legalized, and in at least a few states where it has been legalized even for recreational use.
We know all of that. We want to know your position, Mr. Surgeon General, with all due respect.
Yes, well, my position is that we have to see what the science tells us about the efficacy of marijuana. And I think we're going to get a lot more data on that. We have some preliminary data showing that for certain medical conditions and symptoms, that marijuana can be helpful. So I think that we have to use that data to drive policymaking. And I'm very interested to see where that data takes us.
Dr. Vivek Murthy, we thank
I'll try not to make it a habit of sharing people's opinions as news on this show, but here we have the most prominent doctor in the country not shying away from the question, which is indicative of the political climate on the topic more than anything. And opinions like these might not have any direct effect on company valuations, but it is useful to hear to gauge the temperature of people outside of what can be an echo chamber of investors. So this month we have Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy. Last month we heard from U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas doubting the necessity of federal prohibition on interstate cultivation and use. When you have people in these positions speaking about these things, it certainly brings it into the Overton window. Next, let's talk a little bit about prices. An article came out on NBC over the weekend highlighting the quote-unquote ridiculous price of medicinal products. And in this article, they highlight a gentleman in Minnesota who is or was enrolled in the state program, but is now buying from the black market. He says that going through the legal MMJ market there would run him $500 a month, while on the black market he spends between $125 and $150 a month. So that brings up 2 points investors have to keep in mind here. First is that purchasing from dispensaries is still very expensive, sometimes prohibitively so. I touched on this in the first episode when I tried to lay out my reasoning when I was trying to estimate the market size, because this isn't a unique story. Right now, legal, recreational, and medicinal sales are going to be higher than street prices. That's something to keep in mind when doing valuations. This is a double-edged sword. While it keeps margins fat for companies we're invested in, it also prices people out and incentivizes them to go to the black market. Second, prices have to come down eventually. It has to happen. If companies have any chance of converting black market customers to legal customers. This is also something to keep in mind when performing valuations. I plan on making some content solely around prices. It's deserving of a lengthy discussion because of its impact on profitability and margins, but let's keep it in mind for now. On the flip side, I saw a couple of articles, both over the weekend and today, from the Canadian market, specifically around Toronto, Ontario area. We've heard the stories about the Canadian market struggling for some time now, but seeing numbers like these is just disheartening. This article here from Bloomberg highlights the falling profitability of Canadian dispensaries due to the way that their government has just set up their program, partially because they opened the floodgates, like the article says here. In their very first year of legalization, it's 75 pot shops in the entire province of Ontario. And since then, that's ramped up to 80 a month. That's 80 licenses a month being issued. That's crazy. It's quite ridiculous. The article says that the province has 859 stores open today. And you can see clearly what it's done to sales. In this article, which I'll link below in the show notes, goes well with another article from StratCan I saw today that shows the trend of prices in the country. So no surprise here, given what we saw in the prior article. showing that prices have plummeted over the last few years. So I'll include both of these articles in the show notes. They're worth the read. I don't want to get too deep into this topic here because, like I said, this is something that I want to dive into later. But you can see just how large an impact rules and regulations in the market have on the market itself, on its operators, on profit. These are important facts to keep in mind and bring into our valuation models. This is not easy to do, but it's one of the things that excites me about this space. The complexity provides us with opportunity. Let me know if discussions on pricing is something you want to see sooner rather than later. All right, if you're still with me, thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe. That would go a long way in helping spread the word. Please share the content out if you think it's worthwhile for other investors in this space. My goal is to do the due diligence on this sector and provide that in a digestible format to you guys. Hope you guys will stick with me as I get better at producing this thing. I'm just figuring it out as I go along here. If you want to contact me, the best way to do that is Twitter. My handle is @MJMarkets, or send me an email at MaryJaneMarkets@gmail.com. My Patreon page is patreon.com/MaryJaneMarkets. And that's going to be all for today. Thank you.